Welcome to the Big Three, Fantasy Alarm TV. I'm your host, Ray Flowers. Let's talk some quarterbacks here on Monday by looking back at some Week 11 performances, and we'll start out with the number of 3. That's the number of quarterbacks that threw for at least 4 touchdowns in Week 11. 4 touchdowns by Carson Palmer, 5 by Cam Newton, 5 from Winston. Let's talk about Winston. The other 2 guys are weekly starters. We know that. Winston, great game. 5 touchdown passes. Who's going to complain about that? But be very careful with Winston, and here is why. Though he had 5 touchdown passes in Week 11, do you know how many touchdown passes he has the last 3 games? 5. You know how many touchdown passes he has the last 4 games? 6. He's not throwing touchdowns in this offense. And you could say Austin Seferian-Jenkins is out, Vincent Jackson's been out, maybe that's part of it. I can give you that. But the fact is, for a month now, he has not been a big touchdown producer. Secondly, let's talk about the yardage. 4 straight games for him without 265 yards passing. In this day and age, you need to have your quarterback throwing the ball that much. He hasn't hit that mark in 4 straight games. Further than that, let's talk about his pass attempts. In 4 of his last 6 games played, he has failed to throw the ball 30 times. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we see from Alex Smith and Teddy Bridgewater and Russell Wilson. And eventually, when you don't throw the football, you don't produce. No volume for Winston, very little consistency in the touchdown department for Winston, and no yards from Winston. Be very careful if you're rushing to the waiver wire to add him this week. Second number is 2, and that's the number of quarterbacks that threw for 3 interceptions in Week 11. One is Matt Ryan, who's been very disappointing despite all the greatness of Julio Jones, another 9 catches for 160 yards for him. But Matt Ryan's on pace for 24 touchdowns this year. He's bettered that mark each of the last 5 seasons, really needs to get going. The other quarterback, though, is M.Sanchez. 261 yards, 2 touchdowns, great, fine, all that. 3 interceptions. M.Sanchez stinks. Don't know how many times I have to say it. Don't know how often I have to reiterate it. That is now 15 interceptions his last 11 games. Bad work. A couple of those games didn't even play the full game. M.Sanchez is turnover prone, period. It's going to hold him back and that Eagles offense, and they need desperately to have their quarterback play improve. Sam Bradford is back at practice dealing with his concussion and shoulder issues. Unclear who's going to make the next start. Probably going to be Sanchez, but it's not good news for the Eagles. And then the final number of the day is 28. That's the number of passes thrown by T.Romo in his return to the football field. 227 yards, 2 touchdowns, a couple of picks. Romo looked okay. He looked a little tentative, maybe shaking that rust off a bit. One of the picks was a miscommunication with Dez Bryant, who at this point still doesn't look like Dez Bryant. He's unable to burst out of his breaks. He doesn't have the lift when he jumps to go and high point those footballs like we're used to seeing. So until and if Dez Bryant gets back to 100%, it's going to be tough for Romo to be an elite quarterback. This wasn't a bad first effort for him, but we need to see more if he's your QB1 the rest of the way. Big 3, Fantasy Alarm TV. Don't forget to visit us, fantasyalarm.com. I'm your host, Ray Flowers.